Think about your morning routine for a second. Like, really picture it. When that alarm goes off tomorrow morning, what are you actually going to do?
Oh, I know what most people do.
Right. Are you going to hit snooze, maybe bury your head under the pillow, and just silently bargain with yourself for like 5 more minutes?
Always 5 more minutes.
Exactly. Or do you throw the covers off and just leap out of bed, completely ready to face the day? I mean, for most of us, waking up early is treated as this ultimate, almost weaponized productivity hack.
Yeah, that is definitely the dominant modern paradigm. We tend to view the morning purely through the lens of efficiency and output.
Just squeezing an extra hour of emails out of the day.
Right, or a workout. It's just this mechanism for getting ahead in the daily grind, optimizing our schedule so we don't fall behind the rest of the world.
But what if waking up wasn't about getting ahead of the competition at all? What if this simple, everyday, profoundly mundane act of just opening your eyes at sunrise was actually the literal foundation for a utopian society?
It sounds wild, but yeah.
It does. So we're doing a deep dive today into a truly fascinating essay from 2012, written by a man named Shu Fifeng. The text is titled, People in the Second Home, Now New Oasis for Life, Shall Dance with Dawn.
And just for some quick context there, the community was originally called the Second Home to position it as an alternative to the traditional nuclear family structure.
Right.
But as their philosophy sort of evolved from just a living arrangement into what they viewed as a literal sanctuary for human survival, they rebranded to the New Oasis for Life.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because this essay, it's mind-bending.
It is an incredibly dense piece of writing. Like, on its surface, if you just skim it, it reads like a set of house rules.
Yeah, like a chore chart for a commune.
Exactly. But as you dig into the underlying logic, you realize the author is actually outlining this comprehensive philosophy on human labor, our relationship with nature, and a total rejection of modern global economics.
And a step-by-step roadmap to spiritual immortality.
Right, that too.
The speed at which this essay scales up from boiling water to eternal life is just crazy. So our mission today is to figure out the mechanics of that. We want to explore exactly how this community takes the most commonplace thing we all do waking up and engineers it into this cosmic imperative.
We really have to start by looking at what Dancing with Dawn actually looks like on the dirt and grass for these people.
We need the physical reality first.
Exactly. Because the physical reality is where Shu Feng anchors his entire argument. He doesn't start with, like, abstract theology. He starts by establishing his own sensory experience.
To build credibility, right?
Yeah. He shares that for 19 years, he has personally maintained this strict habit of waking up to the sound of twittering birds and the smell of fragrant flowers.
19 years is a long time to never sleep in.
Tell me about it. And he describes his internal state as being perpetually exhilarated. Like, he says this morning habit makes him feel like he's living in a world where the weather is spring all year round, no matter what the actual season is.
Oh, wow. He writes that when those birds start chirping, he gets up full of joy and confidence. And he brought this personal habit with him when he established the second home.
Yeah, the text actually zeroes in on the fourth branch of this community, which had only been established about half a year prior to this essay being written.
Right, and he notes that the dozens of members living there, who he affectionately refers to as Chanyuan Celestials, which is a great name, have all universally adopted this practice of dancing with the dawn.
And he gives us this very vivid, almost cinematic snapshot of what this looks like in practice. It's not just some vague idea of being awake early.
Yeah, he describes walking out of his room at 7 a.m. sharp.
Right, and observing the third subunit of this community. And you aren't just seeing individuals, groggily making coffee. You're watching an entire synchronized ecosystem spring into immediate, purposeful action.
The level of coordination he describes is just staggering. I mean, at exactly 7 a.m., you have sisters sweeping and cleaning the communal courtyard.
You have members watering the plants and flowers.
Right. And 3 brothers are already out in the fields tending to the vegetables.
Plus, you have the specific group of people he literally calls kitchen immortals.
Best job title ever.
Right. And they've already fired up the stoves and boiled the water for the entire day's needs. Sisters are out feeding the chickens and ducks, collecting fresh eggs, hanging laundry out to dry.
There are even dozens of people simultaneously engaged in what he calls onerous work. So like the heavy physical expansion and construction of the home.
You know, the detail that stands out most to me in that snapshot is the inclusion of digital tasks functioning right alongside those very traditional agrarian chores.
Yeah, the network tasks.
Exactly. Amidst the egg collecting and the sweeping, he mentions sisters responsible for network tasks who have already opened their web pages to begin what he terms the building of spirit and soul.
So it's this very intentional blend of farm labor, heavy construction, and digital presence, all harmonized at the exact same hour.
It shows they aren't completely anti-technology, they're just anti-asynchrony.
But that synchrony is where I have to push back a little on the premise, or at least point out a fascinating paradox.
Okay, what do you mean?
Because objectively speaking, 7 in the morning isn't actually that early.
That's true.
I mean, if you look at modern hustle culture, you have tech executives bragging on social media about waking up at 4:17 a.m. to take ice baths and meditate.
Oh, absolutely.
So 7 a.m. sounds somewhat reasonable, maybe even a little late for a farmer. But the absolute strictness of the rule is what caught my eye. The text explicitly states that anyone in the home who gets up later than 7 a.m. is officially regarded as lazy.
And there's zero wiggle room on that.
None. It's a very hard line. And the vibe I'm getting is this strange, compelling hybrid.
How so?
Well, on one hand, the description of collecting eggs and boiling water reads like a cheerful, relaxed farm co-op where everyone is just happily pitching in.
Right.
But the discipline required to enforce a non-negotiable 7 a.m. start time across dozens of adults makes it feel like a highly structured, almost militaristic monastic retreat. Like you cannot have a slow morning, you cannot linger in bed.
Yeah, but we really have to look at the psychological framing the author uses to enforce that rule.
Okay.
Because he specifically avoids framing it as a punitive clock-punching measure. It's entirely anchored in this poetic concept of dancing with the dawn.
Oh, right.
The text argues that when the first rays of the morning sun appear on the horizon, a new day and a new self are literally born.
So waking up isn't viewed as a chore you were forced out of bed to do.
No, not at all. It is framed as a daily, required rebirth of the individual.
So it's not an alarm clock going off to signify the start of a shift. It's a daily rebirth.
Yeah.
That radically changes the psychological weight of getting out of bed, I guess.
It shifts the entire motivation from compliance to actualization. The author equates the physical dawn with the abstract concept of hope.
I remember he writes about strolling into the courtyard and the air feeling extremely refreshing.
Yeah, and observing that the home is full of youthful spirit, vigor, and vitality. So the strictness of the 7 a.m. rule isn't about punishing people who are tired. It's about collective synchronization.
Right, because when everyone engages in this simultaneous physical labor at the exact moment the sun rises, it kind of acts as a generator for that shared vitality.
Yeah, I guess that.
Okay, so they have this synchronized, beautiful dawn rebirth happening. Everyone is up by 7 a.m., side by side, working in perfect harmony with the sunrise.
Yeah.
But enforcing that level of discipline every single morning introduces a massive physical reality. If you're doing this every day, the obvious question you're probably asking right now is,
Right.
how do they prevent the entire commune from collapsing from sheer exhaustion by, like, Thursday?
Right.
When do the kitchen immortals get to sleep in?
They don't.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they don't. And this highlights a profound divergence from modern society. They completely reject our standard calendar-based measurements of rest.
So no weekends.
The text is unambiguous on this point. There are zero holidays, no festivals, no weekends, and absolutely no Sundays in the home.
Wait, no weekends ever? I mean, doesn't that lead to massive burnout? The idea of never having a Saturday to just sit on the couch and decompress seems biologically unsustainable to most of us. We live for the weekend.
We do, but there's a historical context here that makes their choice incredibly logical within their framework.
I mean, our 5-day work week is a totally modern construct anyway.
Exactly. The concept of a weekend, where we trade our labor for 5 days to buy 2 days of leisure, that was born out of the Industrial Revolution.
Right, it's completely human-made.
And this community basically looked at the Gregorian calendar with its artificial boundaries of work days and rest days and identified it as the actual source of our exhaustion.
So they just threw the paper calendar out.
Yeah, and replaced it with a purely solar-powered clock. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the justification Xu Feng uses is incredibly tight. He argues that dawn comes unfailingly.
The sun never takes a holiday.
Precisely. The sun doesn't need a weekend or a Sunday to recover its energy. And because the community's stated philosophy is to follow the way of nature, they believe human activity must perfectly mirror planetary physics.
So you initiate movement at the rising of the sun. and you cease movement at the setting of the sun.
Day after day, year after year, without interruption.
Okay, so the text is arguing that burnout doesn't actually come from physical labor or working every day. Burnout comes from working unnaturally.
That is the core thesis, yeah.
It comes from friction between our biological reality and our artificial schedules.
According to Chores, burnout is a symptom of forcing human beings into artificial structures. Like when you sit in a cubicle under fluorescent lights for 10 hours, entirely disconnected from the position of the sun, you were fighting nature.
You're just draining your battery.
Exactly. But nature itself is a perfect perpetual engine. By aligning themselves completely with the solar cycle, working when it's light, resting when it's dark, the text suggests they have tapped into a sustainable rhythm.
A perpetual rhythm for human life that doesn't actually require a weekend to recover from.
Right.
I mean, if the sun doesn't need a day off to keep the crops growing, neither do we.
That's the logic.
Okay, now that we understand their entire schedule is dictated strictly by the sun, we have to look at what exactly these Chanyuan celestials are building with all that daylight. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Su Feng defines their society just as strongly by what they absolutely refuse to do. The boundaries of their utopia are defined by their rejections.
The no list is extensive, and it is this fascinating blend of both spiritual boundaries and hardline economic practices.
He goes out of his way early on to state that the members of this community are the most, quote, ordinary and commonplace people under heaven.
Which sounds lovely and humble on the surface, but it's actually the setup for a massive structural rejection of the outside world.
Let's look at the spiritual rejections first.
Oh.
They claim they do not pursue magical arts.
Right. They reject theurgy, which is a form of magic used to invoke or control deities.
And they refuse to develop any special skills. They explicitly state they do not seek out shortcuts or make research into strange magic.
They also insist they don't harangue.
Meaning they refuse to give empty, pompous speeches or claim moral superiority.
Right. Yeah. And then, seamlessly, in the exact same breath, the text pivots from rejecting mystical magic to rejecting modern global capitalism.
It's quite the pivot.
It really is. They state unequivocally that they do not bet on stocks. They do not engage in trade, buying, or selling of goods for profit. They do not resort to financial speculation.
And perhaps most significantly, they state they do not rely on earning the surplus value of other people, rejecting all forms of exploitation and oppression.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Instead of a static list of rules, this feels more like a mechanical engine they've built, like an ideology Venn diagram.
A Venn diagram.
How so? Well, you've got this deep spiritual humility, the rejection of magic, the refusal to seek mystical shortcuts acting as the steering wheel. And then you have this hardcore Marxist economic critique, the rejection of surplus value and capitalist trading acting as the fuel line.
That's a great way to put it. And we should probably pause and clarify what rejecting surplus value actually means in their daily lives.
Yeah, that's important.
In classical Marxist economics, surplus value is the new value created by workers that is in excess of their own labor cost, which is then extracted by the capitalist as profit.
So in simple terms, it means your boss makes $1 off your labor while paying you a dime.
Exactly. So by refusing to extract surplus value from anyone else, they are making a radical commitment. It means they will not skim off the top of someone else's labor to pay for their dinner.
Every single calorie they consume, every brick they lay, has to be generated directly by their own physical exertion before the sun goes down.
Right. Which perfectly explains why they have this two-tiered system of reliance. The text states that for the macroscopic level, so the big picture of their overall happiness and cosmic grace, they rely purely on the favor of the greatest creator.
But on the microscopic level, the gritty day-to-day reality of survival, they rely entirely and only on their own hands and their own persistent creation.
And that reliance on their own hands brings us all the way back to why the 7 a.m. alarm clock is non-negotiable.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Dancing with Dawn isn't merely an aesthetic choice or like a team-building exercise. It is the practical, unavoidable engine that makes their anti-capitalist, anti-magical ideology function.
Because if you won't trade stocks to make money,
right,
and you refuse to exploit the labor of others to generate profit,
yeah,
and you can't magically conjure food out of thin air, your own physical hands are your only allowed tools for survival. You literally must wake up at dawn.
Precisely. The dawn is the physical activator for their entire economic model. The author actually states this connection explicitly in the text. He says, We work hard and create our ideal future with our own hands. We must therefore dance with dawn.
Wow.
If you remove the 7 a.m. wake up, the entire philosophical and economic structure just collapses because no one is there to boil the water or tend to the vegetables.
So all of this diligent, everyday labor, sweeping the courtyards, feeding the ducks, boiling the water, and dragging yourself out of bed at 7 a.m. sharp is incredibly grounded.
Very grounded.
It's practical, tangible, salt-of-the-earth survival mechanics. But this is exactly where the essay takes a massive, unexpected pivot.
The biggest pivot of all.
It suddenly reveals the ultimate cosmic payoff for this mundane daily routine.
Yeah.
And the escalation from doing chores to literally altering the fabric of reality is just breathtaking.
The transition from the earthly to the eternal happens almost instantly in the text. The immediate promise the author makes to the community is very practical. He says that as long as they collectively dance with the dawn every day, they will never have to worry about the basic aspects of life, like food, clothing, shelter, or transportation.
Which makes logical sense.
Yeah.
You tend the vegetables every morning, you have a reliable food source, you build the expansion to the home, you have guaranteed shelter. Action equals result.
Right. But then he adds to that list of earthly worries. He casually states that by persisting in this routine, they will also not have to worry about birth, aging, sickness, and death.
I mean, that is an incredible gravity-defying leap.
It really is.
How does a morning routine conquer the biological reality of aging and death? We've gone from collecting eggs to immortality.
Yep.
It's like stepping onto an escalator that starts at the chicken coop and abruptly drops you off at eternal life. What is the actual mechanism here? How does waking up early stop you from dying?
Well, the text provides the destination that explains this mechanism. In the final paragraph, Xu Feng makes an impassioned, open plea to sisters, brothers, relatives, and lovers everywhere to join in this daily march.
Okay.
He promises that by universally persisting in this simple physical habit of waking up before 7 and dancing with the dawn, they are bound to march toward higher realms of existence.
He actually names them, right?
He does. He names 3 distinct tiers: the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the celestial island continent of the Elysium world.
The Elysium world. A literal celestial paradise.
Yeah.
And the physical act of getting out of bed is treated as the vehicle to get there.
This is really the synthesizing aha moment of the entire essay. In Xu Feng's belief system, the microscopic action and the macroscopic cosmic reward are completely inseparable.
So you can't have one without the other.
Exactly. You cannot separate the physical act of washing the laundry from the spiritual goal of achieving the Elysium world. The mechanism bridging the two is the dissolution of the individual ego.
The dissolution of the ego. Explain how waking up at 7 a.m. achieves that.
Okay, so when you surrender your personal desires, like wanting to sleep in, to the rhythm of nature, and you work every single day without the reward of a weekend, and you participate in communal, non-exploitative labor, you stop being a discrete, selfish organism.
You become part of the whole.
Right. You become a perfectly functioning cell in a much larger, eternal organism. You are harmonizing your internal biology with the physics of the universe.
Wow.
By merging completely with the eternal, perpetual cycle of the sun, the text implies that you yourself become eternal. The mundane physical habit builds the spiritual endurance required to exist in higher dimensions.
So waking up at dawn isn't just a chore to keep the farm running. It isn't just a productivity hack to get more done.
No, not at all.
In this framework, waking up with the sun and performing your labor is literally the physical footsteps required to walk into heaven. The mundane action is the divine action.
Yes. There is no separation between the sacred and the secular for them. Tending the vegetables is a holy act because it aligns you with the mechanics of the universe.
It radically reframes how we view our daily obligations.
It really does.
So, what does this all mean for us living outside the new oasis for life? We've taken this incredible journey through a 2012 essay by Xu Feng.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We've seen how his community takes the incredibly simple, everyday act of waking up at sunrise and transforms it into a profound rejection of modern capitalist economics.
Yeah.
We've explored how enforcing a strict 7 a.m. rule becomes a complete embrace of natural solar rhythms, replacing the artificial exhaustion of the modern work week.
No more weekends.
Right. And we've seen how performing mundane daily chores is viewed as a literal, step-by-step roadmap to the Elysium world.
It challenges the very foundation of how we structure our time and value our labor.
It totally does. It forces us to look at our own alarm clocks differently. When you wake up tomorrow morning and that alarm goes off, what are you actually waking up for?
That's the big question.
Are you dancing with the dawn, stepping onto a pathway that connects you to nature, to your community, and to a deeper sense of purpose? Or are you just hitting snooze, bracing yourself for another day of friction in the grind?
It's a vital question, and I think it leaves us with one final lingering thought to ponder as we step away from this text.
What's that?
Well, Shufeng's essay strongly argues that our beloved weekends and holidays are actually unnatural human inventions that cause our burnout.
Right.
It posits that true utopia means working in lockstep with the sun every single day, without exception, dissolving our ego into the rhythm of nature.
Yeah.
So we have to ask ourselves, is our modern attempt to compartmentalize our lives into work days and rest days actually alienating us from a deeper, more fulfilling natural rhythm? Or is the promise of no days off, even when it's dressed up in the beautiful, poetic language of dancing with the dawn and attaining the Elysium world, just another form of human exhaustion disguised as spiritual enlightenment?